Have you ever stopped to think if the success you're so relentlessly chasing truly brings happiness? Or if, at the end of the day, the sacrifices are worth the cost of your peace? This is the story of a pragmatic businessman, someone just like you, who believed that the value of life lay in material achievements. But a near-death experience led him on a transformative journey, revealing a truth that changed everything. Amid stress and the longing to rediscover a deeper purpose, this story may serve as your inspiration for a more meaningful life. Watch until the end and see how a simple shift in perspective can redefine your path. My name is Mark Anderson. I'm 47 years old, and I'm a businessman who always believed that success was a matter of hard work, planning, and sacrifice. I built a respected career in the financial sector, growing my own company from a small consultancy to a true investment empire. People admired me, saying I was an example of discipline and perseverance, and I believed it. My mornings started before the sun came up. The coffee machine knew my rhythm, programmed to have the coffee ready by 5 in the morning. The day was a constant cycle of endless emails, urgent phone calls, and meetings that stretched late into the night. Every deal closed and every new partnership fueled a pride that, deep down, I knew was empty. I worked without rest. There was no room for hesitation. My assistant, Clara, always joked that I was driven by calendars and spreadsheets, but even in her smile, I could see a shadow of fatigue. "Mark, you never stop, do you?" My wife, Laura, would say when I finally got home, late at night. The exhaustion on her face told me everything I didn't want to admit. My marriage had boiled down to silent dinners and distant glances. My kids, Peter and Sophie, grew up without me noticing. Deep down, there was something I tried to ignore. It was like a distant voice, amid the buzz of my thoughts, telling me I was losing what truly mattered. But I drowned it out with masks of productivity and endless goals. All the recognition and financial success couldn't fill the emptiness growing inside me. The business awards decorated my shelves, but each shiny trophy seemed to mock me, reflecting a man chasing something he couldn't even define. That routine continued relentlessly, as if I were on a track with no brakes. It wasn't just physical exhaustion, it was a weariness that reached my soul. Sleepless nights were fueled by reports and spreadsheets, and my mind had become accustomed to operating at the limit, like a machine that never shuts down. Yet, the more I gave myself to that frantic race, the clearer it became that I was losing something that no bank balance or contract signature could ever replace. That night, after another long meeting that stretched past dinner, I sat in my armchair, the glow of the screen still pulsating in my eyes. Around me, the silence of the house was deafening, and for the first time in a long while, I allowed myself to feel the thought, what was I really chasing? The day arrived like any other, with the incessant hustle of the office and a schedule packed with appointments. I had a crucial presentation for a new foreign investor, a contract that, if signed, could double the company's revenue in just a few months. The conference room was crowded, filled with attentive and hopeful eyes. Clara, my assistant, gave me an encouraging smile as I straightened my papers and adjusted my tie, preparing to begin the presentation. "Ladies and gentlemen, let's get started," I announced, trying to mask the tension gnawing at me from the inside. The first words came out smoothly, as they always did, and the slides projected my confident voice. But then, in a moment that felt like an eternity, I felt a sharp pain in my chest. It radiated with such intensity that it took my breath away. I tried to ignore it, taking a deep breath and continuing, but the pain worsened, as if an invisible fist were crushing my chest. Heat rushed to my face, and beads of sweat ran down my forehead. The room, once vibrant and full of movement, began to distort, the voices blending into a distant echo. I tried to lean on the table for support, but my legs gave out. Clara's eyes widened, and she took a step toward me, as I heard muffled shouts and movement from the others. Everything became a blur. Consciousness slipped away from me like sand through my fingers. A sudden chill swept over my body as darkness enveloped me. Then, just like that, all the pain ceased. In the midst of that darkness, a profound and comforting silence took over, as if time had stopped. The calm I felt was almost unreal, a peace I hadn't experienced in decades. And for a brief moment, I found myself floating, observing the chaos around me from a distance, like a spectator of my own life. When the darkness faded, I was enveloped by an intense, yet not blinding light. It was unlike anything I had ever seen. The light seemed to have a life of its own, pulsing gently and emitting a warmth that passed through my body, not as a physical sensation, but as a touch that reached my soul. I floated in a formless space, free from gravity, where the weight of my body and my worries simply didn't exist. An overwhelming sense of peace took over me, something I had never experienced in the midst of my relentless pursuit of success. Suddenly, I felt a presence. It wasn't something visible, but it was there, welcoming and familiar. It was as if I were surrounded by an ancient feeling, almost like a home I had forgotten. This presence didn't need words to communicate. Instead, it conveyed feelings and images. A stream of compassion enveloped me, tearing down all the defenses I had built over the years. As I absorbed that sensation, scenes from my life began to project around me, like crystal-clear memories framed by that soft light. I saw the first time I helped a classmate at school, expecting nothing in return, and the look of gratitude he gave me. I watched a forgotten moment, when I hugged my mother after a tough day, feeling the comfort of that simple gesture. Each image carried an emotional weight I hadn't recognized at the time, but now it pierced me with an inexplicable intensity. Other memories surfaced, moments when I had shown empathy and kindness, things that my frantic routine and pragmatism had buried. The present seemed to highlight these scenes, as if trying to show me what truly mattered. Then, like a fast-forwarded film, I began to relive the silent glances from Laura in moments when I chose work over being with my family. I saw Peter and Sophie laughing alone while I took an urgent call on a Saturday. Each scene was a reminder, a stark contrast between what I thought success was and what it really was. I felt a mix of sadness and relief, sadness for realizing how many precious moments I had let slip by, and relief for finally understanding what I had been ignoring. The presence, silent and compassionate, seemed to be telling me that I still had the chance to change. It was as if a simple, undeniable truth was being revealed. Success wasn't in the numbers or the contracts, but in the connections we make and the compassion we offer. In that timeless space, I felt such lightness that for a moment, I thought I might never return. But amid that desire to stay, a new sensation arose, like a distant call, pulling me back. Gradually, I was enveloped by a wave of awareness, still immersed in that light that seemed to embrace me. The images of my life faded, but the feelings they left behind remained alive, as if they had been etched into my very essence. A whirlwind of thoughts began to form, and the inner voice that had once whispered became clear. My material achievements, no matter how impressive, didn't carry the weight I had imagined. The memory of Peter and Sophie playing in the yard without my presence, the nights when Laura waited up for dinners that never happened, these were the true treasures I had failed to appreciate. Sadness washed over me like a wave, overwhelming and sincere. It wasn't a sadness that made me want to retreat, but one that brought clarity. It was the recognition of years wasted chasing something that now seemed so superficial. All I did was for them, I thought, trying to justify the choices I had made. But the presence still surrounding me seemed to echo a deeper understanding. It wasn't the trophies on the shelf that mattered, but what I had lost along the way. The true impact of life isn't found in what we achieve, but in how we touch those around us. Then I felt a wave of gratitude, unexpected and intense. Gratitude for the chance to recognize what truly mattered, even if it was late. It was as if a door had opened, a chance to change, to transform each remaining day into something real. A certainty grew within me. I could return and do things differently. Compassion, which I had so often ignored in the name of goals and success, now became the most important reason. A single, warm tear rolled down my face, but there was no pain anymore, only acceptance. I felt small, yet at the same time more human than ever. The presence around me seemed to smile, silently, as if understanding my decision. The light pulsed one last time, and I knew I was ready to return. What awaited me wasn't just the life I had before, but a new way of living, where every action would have real meaning. I woke up to the cold, relentless light of the emergency room piercing my eyes. The sound of machines and muffled voices surrounded the room, but the feeling was still like a distant dream, almost unreal. The pain in my chest had returned, more subtle, like a reminder that I was alive. I blinked a few times, trying to adjust my vision as consciousness slowly settled in. Everything around me seemed surreal, as if there were a thin line between the experience I had just gone through and the reality in front of me. "Mr. Anderson, are you awake?" a familiar voice asked. Clara, with red eyes and an expression of relief mixed with concern, was standing in the doorway. Before I could respond, a doctor, Dr. Harris, quickly approached, checking my vital signs and giving me a serious yet calm look. "You had a heart attack, Mark, but you're out of danger now," he said as he adjusted the 4 hanging beside my bed. Those words seemed to echo, but what really held me was the lingering feeling, the peace and clarity of the experience I had just had. "I saw something," I murmured almost to myself, as I tried to find the words to describe the indescribable. Clara and Dr. Harris exchanged curious glances, but they didn't press. Instead, it was Laura, with tears in her eyes and her cold hand on mine, who softly asked, "What did you see, love?" Emotion welled up in my throat, and a feeling of gratitude spread through me. I didn't know how to explain, but I knew it had changed me. The meaning of my life, once focused on empty successes, now carried new weight. I had been given a second chance, and I wasn't going to waste it. "Something that reminded me of what truly matters," I replied, squeezing Laura's hand with a newfound determination. In that moment, I realized the path ahead would be different, guided by something deeper than ever before. In the days following my return, every moment seemed to carry a new meaning. The hustle of the office, which had once been the foundation of my identity, now seemed to echo with a different kind of pressure, one I no longer wanted to bear. Sitting in my office, surrounded by diplomas, awards, and photos of celebrated partnerships with familiar faces, I felt like I was in a museum of a past I no longer wished to inhabit. "Mark, the meeting with the investors will start in 15 minutes, Clara informed me, with her usual efficiency. But this time, when I looked at her, I saw more than a dedicated assistant. I saw someone who, like so many others around me, had been contributing to the frantic pace I had helped create. I smiled faintly and replied, "Clara, let them know we'll reschedule it. We need a new format for these discussions." The surprise in her eyes was immediate, but she nodded, recognizing the seriousness in my voice. That was just the first of many decisions I would make. I began changing the dynamic of our meetings, creating spaces for every team member to contribute ideas, rather than simply follow orders. Slowly, the atmosphere in the office began to shift. Miguel, a young analyst I rarely spoke with, approached me after one of those meetings. "Mark, I don't know what happened, but things here are different. For the better. Thank you for giving us this opportunity." My life outside of work also underwent a transformation. I swapped the endless nights of reports for moments with Peter and Sophie. I rediscovered the joy of taking them to the park, of hearing their laughter that, for so long, I had only heard in the background. Laura, my wife, looked at me with a mix of surprise and renewal. "It's good to have you back," she said one afternoon as we watched the sunset together, something we hadn't done in years. Over time, I found a new passion: social impact projects. Using my experience and resources to help small entrepreneurs and local causes brought a sense of purpose to my life that I had never felt before. During a talk for young entrepreneurs, I shared my near-death experience. I saw curious and emotional eyes, feeling that this story was not just mine, but a lesson for everyone chasing goals without looking around them. The comments on my transformation were inevitable. Some colleagues wondered what had happened to me. Others, like Renato, an old business partner, simply said, "Mark, you seem like a different person, but a person who's finally at peace." Every word reinforced the path I had chosen. The old pressure to grow, conquer, and outdo the competition dissolved. In its place grew a desire to make a difference, not through more trophies, but through actions that could echo in others. And so, each passing day was no longer a burden to carry, but a new opportunity to live with purpose. Time passed, but the memory of that experience never left my mind. It was as if every day, every choice, and every small gesture echoed the message I received in that space of light. I, Mark Anderson, no longer saw myself as just a businessman chasing results. Now I saw myself as someone striving to leave deeper, more human marks. The routine in the office continued, but the focus had shifted. The numbers, which once dictated every decision, became just one of many elements. The true value was in the people who made those numbers happen. I was constantly reminded that every employee had a story, a life beyond the walls of the company. Empathy had become my guiding star, and with it, everything seemed more authentic and meaningful. One afternoon, while reviewing some social projects that my company had started supporting, Clara entered my office with a subtle smile. "Mark, there's a group of young entrepreneurs who would like to hear your story at an event next week. They want to know what made you change so much." I agreed without hesitation, knowing that, like me, many might be losing sight of what truly mattered. On the day of the event, I looked around the room, filled with attentive young faces, their expressions lit with genuine curiosity. I took a deep breath and began. "You might be here to hear about success, but what I'm going to share today is about what comes after it. For years, I thought success was built on awards, contracts, and figures. But an experience showed me that true success isn't about what you gain, it's about what you share." As I spoke, I noticed eyes shining with understanding and faces nodding, moved by my story. I concluded with words that had now become my mantra. "Remember, the world will remember not just what you achieved, but how you made others feel." True success is measured by the connections we build and the compassion we spread. The applause that followed was not just recognition, it was confirmation that the message had been understood. I left the stage with a light heart, knowing that this was only the beginning of a new way of leading and living. Looking out at the horizon, with the evening light reflecting off the city's buildings, I felt that I had finally achieved something greater than any award. And it was simple: to live in a way that makes a difference. In that moment, I knew my journey wasn't about accumulating, but about sharing and inspiring. And to me, that was everything. Did you enjoy the video? Don't forget to leave a like, share it with your friends, and subscribe to the channel to receive more content like this. Stay tuned for our upcoming videos with tips and strategies to enhance your journey.